Welcome back to another episode of Out Loud Geek, where we discuss news and views about pop culture, science fiction, fantasy, food, cooking, the outdoors, and more. It's time once again for another woeful dose of Warner Bros Discovery. Warner Bros Discovery and CEO David Zaslav didn't get very good news this week when the opening weekend box office predictions for The Flash came out. The movie, which opens in a few weeks on June 14th, is only projected to earn $70 million domestically for its opening weekend box office. That would only be about $3 million more than what Black Adam earned domestically during its opening weekend in October of last year. But it would be more than double of the pathetic $30 million that Shazam! Fury of the Gods earned domestically during its opening weekend back in March. But both of these films flopped in theaters. In fact, if we look at the history of the global box office for all 12 DCEU movies, we'll quickly see that there hasn't been a profitable DCEU movie since 2019's Shazam, and that movie earned only a very small profit. But that was 6 movies back. The last 5 DCEU movies have all flopped, and the global box office has been trending downwards for a long time. So will a $70 million domestic opening weekend be enough to ensure that The Flash can break even? Let's take a look at the math. The movie has a $200 million production budget, which if we multiply by 2.5, we can estimate the break-even point to be around $500 million to account for the 50% of gross ticket sales that movie theaters keep for themselves, as well as the additional costs of marketing the movie and other miscellaneous costs that the studio pays above and beyond the production budget. But if Warner Bros. Discovery has spent even more to advertise The Flash, then its break-even point could be even higher, possibly around 3 times its production budget, which would be around $600 million. So given how poorly the past 5 DCEU movies have performed, can The Flash earn that much money? Well, the last DCEU movie to break $500 million was 2018's Aquaman, which is the only DCEU movie to earn over $1 billion at the global box office, and that came out in theaters 4.5 years ago. Since then, 6 more DCEU movies have been released, but only one of those broke even, and that was 2019's Shazam, which only earned $363.6 million at the global box office, but it had a very small production budget of only $85 million, which is why it was able to break even with such low revenue. But of the 6 most recent DCEU movies, 2019's Shazam wasn't the highest grossing. That honor goes to 2022's Black Adam, which earned $391.3 million at the global box office. But Warner Bros. Discovery had spent $200 million to produce the movie, so its break-even point was about the same as for The Flash. Consequently, Black Adam flopped, and all of the most recent DCEU movies have had large production budgets, which means they've all had much higher break-even points than 2019's Shazam, with the exception of Birds of Prey, which was slightly lower. And The Flash movie falls into that same category with its $200 million production budget. Now, one thing that could potentially work in favor for The Flash movie is that the average domestic share for all 12 preceding DCEU movies is 39%. Though I have to point out that the most recent 5 DCEU movies, which all flopped, also had low domestic shares. So having a low domestic share doesn't necessarily guarantee that a movie is going to break even. But if I use that average 39% domestic share with the predicted $70 million domestic opening weekend box office with a range of 30 to 40% weekly global box office declines afterwards, The Flash may potentially earn between $489 million to $600 million for its theatrical run. Naturally, if its domestic share is lower than 39%, or the weekly global box office drops are less than 30%, then the movie could earn a lot more than $600 million. To exemplify this, 2018's Aquaman only earned $68 million for its domestic opening weekend box office, But the movie ended up earning around $1,144,000,000 globally because its domestic share was 29% and its weekly box office drops were probably hovering around 15%. And the movie's low domestic share was in part due to it earning $291.8 million in China. Of the 5 most recent DCEU movies, which all flopped, only 2 played in China, Wonder Woman 1984 and Shazam! Fury of the Gods, but neither did well there. Obviously, David Zaslav, James Gunn, and Peter Safran are all hoping that The Flash will do incredibly well internationally, and they're also undoubtedly hoping that Michael Keaton and Ben Affleck reprising their roles as 2 different versions of Batman in the movie will give it a huge boost of nostalgia to attract longtime DC fans. They're also no doubt hoping that most of the general public has forgotten about Ezra Miller's multiple run-ins with the law and accusations of grooming that were made last year, as I had talked about in multiple videos that I had released in 2022. The last movie that Ezra Miller was in was the 3rd Harry Potter prequel, Fantastic Beasts: The Secrets of Dumbledore, which flopped in theaters. But Ezra Miller's issues last year were probably the least of that film's problems given the recasting of Johnny Depp as Grindelwald and the controversies surrounding some of J.K. Rowling's social media posts, as I had also talked about in multiple videos that I had released last year. When I look at the years-long decline in overall public interest in DCEU movies, I personally believe that that may have a much more adverse impact on The Flash doing well in theaters than the problems that Ezra Miller was causing last year. Certainly, those who recall Miller's out-of-control behavior last year may choose not to see The Flash, but unless this movie truly has the ability to revitalize the DCEU, it may go down as just one more flop in a long series of DCEU flops that began with 2020's Birds of Prey, then continued with Wonder Woman 1984, The Suicide Squad, Black Adam, and most recently, Shazam! Fury of the Gods. Only time will tell. Thanks for watching today, and a huge thanks to everyone who has subscribed to our channel. We appreciate your support. If you enjoyed this video, please press the like button, and please feel free to share a comment. If you'd like to see more of our videos in the future and help support this channel, please press the red subscribe button, and please press the bell to receive notifications for new content. You can also find us on Facebook and Twitter by clicking on the links in the description. Until next time, this is Out Loud Geek.